Thanks for clicking on this video. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell icon and turn on all notifications to keep up to date with the latest information and discussions. Today, we are going to change one moment that has defined Goku's entire philosophy as a fighter. And no, it's got nothing to do with food. Although actually that would be kind of an interesting what if. Let me know down in the comments. Hey guys, MasakoX here. Now most of our what ifs tend to be from Dragon Ball Z and beyond, with only a handful of them coming from the realm of either pre-Dragon Ball or right from the start of said series, with some noteworthy exceptions being the Gine what if of course, and the Goku marrying Bulma one, and both are still readily available for you to watch if you want to go and give them a look after this video. Now why is the reason for all of this? Well, it's mostly due to the fact that I'm more familiar with this series from Z onwards because I grew up with Z and not the original show. I know, I'm terrible. You kids are lucky these days to have access to Dragon Ball right from the get-go. No, I'm not getting ranty here. I'm genuinely pleased that you do have the access. It means that you get to realize what made Toriyama a household name in the first place, for more than just Dr. Slump, and that was a household product already in of itself, as well as find out about his juvenile humor, and it's really juvenile. So what could we possibly do from this time period that would make a vastly big impact, apart from making Kid Goku a Super Saiyan? Again, another one I've done from Dragon Ball. But from what I can tell, any changes that we make prior to age 762, they tend to have very big consequences further down the line. For this one, we need to take a look at Goku, as if we don't do enough of that already in Dragon Ball, right? Goku's a fighter. He likes to fight strong guys, but he was taught originally to be quite honorable and to know his limits. From there, he could gain discipline and then seek a path to bettering himself, as it were, and yet remaining humble and not driven by pride, like a certain principal Saiyans that we know, Vegeta. Master Roshi had tempered the key part of Saiyans, pride. However, today we're going to speculate about what would happen had Goku not gotten the handle of one of those key life lessons that Roshi had given him. What if, at his first martial arts tournament, he didn't lose to Jackie Chun? Wait, Masako, wait. Well, Goku didn't lose a match this time? That can't be that big of a deal, right? You'd be surprised. That first Tenkaichi Budokai was a turning point in young Goku's development. This was a huge lesson, directed by Roshi, in regards to humility, and to understand that not everything goes your own way. Had things gone awry for Roshi, all of Dragon Ball's subsequent history could be vastly different in regards to Goku's mindset. After that emotional moment when the moon was blown up, and that whole encounter was done, which saw Goku become a great ape for the second time in the series, Goku and Jackie were getting themselves all geared up, ready for the final blow, the double jumping kick. It's a hugely symbolic moment in the early days of Dragon Ball. The old versus the young. In the original, Jackie Chun managed to come back out on top, and all of this to get Roshi's plan stuck into the young boy's head. However, in our timelines, that action will be different, in that whole life lesson won't be realized. Now, the build-up is the same, but then, in this timeline, Goku uses the power of one of his greatest weapons, his jaws/appetite. With his gnashers, he is able to stop his opponent's kick. That's right, he bites Jackie Chun on the foot, something that the master would never have expected, especially if he's trying to teach Goku about, you know, martial arts, honor, and discipline. That's exactly not what you do. That is a cheap shot. Now exhausted, Goku gets up and loudly announces himself that he is the victor. He is the champion. Now, why is that important? Well, remember all of the build-up that we were talking about. The only reason Roshi had entered Goku and Krillin, and actually himself, into the tournament was to teach them both that you will never win all of the time, that it's okay to lose, and to learn from it, to ensure his lesson would be more effective and they'd go all out. Now, to ensure that his lesson would be more effective and go off without a hitch, and to prevent any variables, and that they would go all out themselves, the master had to participate in the tournament disguised as Jackie Chun. Not only was this a lesson in humility, it was more importantly a chance to show his students that there will always be someone stronger than them forever. They should never expect to be the strongest person out there and remain to be said strongest. Something that is true even to this day, with the likes of Jiren, with the likes of Beerus, and now Moro in the manga. This lesson didn't work here. Close, but no muffin, Roshi. Goku had used his mind, and more accurately, mouth, to best his mentor, leaving Master Roshi troubled and a little bit embarrassed. At the same time though, all that prize money for being first and second in a tournament, that'll help ease the pain of having this elaborate ruse come crashing down, at least for the short term. After all, Roshi does like money. I mean, a lot of people do. Now, after the tournament, Roshi reveals himself and congratulates to his students that they did a pretty good job. He's keeping a brave face so as to not show his disappointment. But underneath all that bluster and happiness, Roshi is sort of worried. He's not sure how a victory in his first serious tournament will affect Goku in the long run. The boy may now consider himself unstoppable, and it could lead him to getting into all kinds of antics, or may even put his life and the lives of his friends in jeopardy. Now don't worry, Roshi, he does that anyway in Super, even with your lesson intact. Now, keep in mind this next thing. Goku is not going to suddenly turn evil or anything because of a tournament. Goku right now is just excited about winning his first tournament right on the first bounce. Now that's hardly the cause for someone to flip a switch figuratively inside their own head to turn them into a bad guy. We don't think that Goku's personality will suddenly take a sharp turn and he suddenly will follow a dark path like Dark Pit or Dark Me. He is still Son Goku. But while the 21st World Martial Arts Tournaments had originally become the beginning of his desire to fight stronger guys, this time it had an added bonus. It was his first taste of victory. Now, okay, I'd like you all to cast your minds back to when you were young. Did you ever hate to lose? Did you ever love to win? Were you ever a bad winner or were excited to do well in something? I imagine so. Kids love to win. It's something that is hardwired into our brains, that competitive feeling. It's a perfectly natural one. Now, for Goku, with Saiyan DNA, that feeling is probably and most likely magnified exponentially. That sort of victory can really get under his skin fairly quickly, and he'll become addicted to that sense of victory. For the purposes of brevity, and the fact that this change doesn't impact the plot progression as a whole that much, we won't be going into detail with every single adventure that Goku had after that point, because we don't think it would really affect the Red Ribbon Saga that much. The only real differences would be in Goku's personality. Goku might be a little cockier when facing his opponents, but he is still our good-natured monkey boy, although his subsequent victories against the likes of Major Metallotron or Ninja Murasaki may fuel his ego a little bit more. It's like a snowball effect, as it were. Now right now, these tastes of victory are becoming more and more enjoyable, but then at the same time far less rewarding and effective with each supping of a good-fashioned bit of winning. We don't think occurrences like General Blue holding him hostage would count that much, as what General Blue carries could not be considered a martial artist's weapon. So if anything, Goku would complain that Blue is cheating and not want to meet him in direct battle, that, oh, even if he loses to General Blue, that's not going to count because he's not playing by the rules. Goku's sense of honor and now pride in that regard would remain intact. He wouldn't want to fight if it wasn't fair, something that he still does now, but to a lesser effect. That part is still the same. But I think the biggest change out of all of this would be that Goku would do everything he can to win, as well as fight strong opponents. That's why he might be a little bit more willing to punish General Blue after the whole mouse thing. In general, General Blue and his telekinesis would have become a much bigger annoyance for Goku than in the original. I think it would be fairly fine to say that during the crossover adventure with Arale, Goku would be the one to give Blue the ultimate beatdown, not allowing himself to be tricked and finally teaching him a lesson. Goku would feel duty-bound as a winner and a proponent of fairness, at least in his eyes, to show Blue the error of his ways and to rely on things that weren't cheating. Goku, with this inflated ego, is slowly becoming self-righteous and assumes that he is perfect and that people could stand to learn a thing or two from him for how he goes about things. Slippery slope here. It's all going very well for Goku right now, but the first true test of this sentiment will come at the hands of Mercenary Tao, who, as we know and remember, almost offs Goku. And pretty early on. This is a big deal in the original story, as it's the first real taste of peril for one of our main characters. Up until this point, Goku didn't really have that many challenges. It had been mostly an adventure with comedic bad guys and over-the-top personalities that made up for the fact that they weren't as strong as Goku. Tao, though, was cold. Tao was vicious, and he was about to take out the main character. A huge shift there, and this is something Goku could not win. This comes as even more of a shock than in the original for the young boy. Being beaten by Tao will give Goku even more motivation to defeat the mercenary and learn his secrets about how he's so strong and how he beat him. This isn't just because he's a bad guy or anything. Goku is angry, fuming that he didn't win. That's the main thing that he's worried about. Up until now, he'd gotten what he'd wanted on a platter. And now this guy has just come along and torn everything that he knows asunder. His way of thinking is just messed up right now. It's not just revenge. This whole thing is personal. This would make Goku a much harder apprentice for Korin to control and to handle. That cat could sense that the boy's pomposity was troublesome, but we still don't think that Goku would fail the sacred water test. It'll make him just merely a little bit disappointed by the deception, but in time, he will learn how to use that lesson in his future life. Now, his subsequent victory against Tao will only assure him that his fate is to become undefeatable against all odds. This was just a temporary setback. Tao was done, and nobody need ever know that he was bested, right? It cleared his conscience, and it showed that he was right, and that Tao was ultimately wrong, to challenge him and question his own sense of victory. Goku also develops a deep dislike for Tao's ways, something that will have a great difference later in the story. But for now, Goku is more willing to boast after the defeat of the Red Ribbon Army, and he is all too happy to take the credit. In the original, Goku is quite humble and tends to move on to the next thing instead of reveling in the past glory that he's had and reminding everyone that he beat someone ages ago, and it gets to the point of annoyance for anyone else. I can't really remember a time in the original where Goku boasted about winning against someone, and I mean really boasting. Like boasting past the point of arrogance and way into self-importance. Kind of like Mr. Saturn would. The next harsh lesson comes at the hands of Goku's nearest and dearest. As we know, during the Fortune Teller Barber saga, Goku comes face to face, or face to mask, with his adoptive grandfather, Grandpa Gohan. Here, in this heart-to-heart, the young monkey boy learns about how his tail is his biggest weakness. That tail of his was holding him back, and without it, he could excel and become even stronger. Goku is very happy to see his grandpa, of course, obviously, but he is even happier to realize that him losing his tail was not a bad thing. Now knowing that it was limiting him and holding him back potentially, Goku then goes on to think that anything is possible, and that him losing is even less likely. Now this, understandably, is not going to go down well with the seniors, because Gohan is now worried that his grandson is so focused on winning instead of bettering himself like he's supposed to. Wasn't Roshi meant to teach him about discipline instead of arrogance? What happened? Gohan then asks Roshi to try and snap the young boy out of this sense of righteousness before it's too late. Who knows what Goku could do with this mindset? He's a loose cannon. But alas, very few people managed to change Goku's mind on the subject. Goku had also used a cheap shot instead of relying on the lessons that Roshi had tried to teach him. It caught the old man off guard, and thusly, there was nothing he could do. He couldn't expect it. Gohan then tells Roshi to try harder. This is his grandson after all. Now, the biggest difference in all of this will be Goku's relationship with Tenshinhan and Chaozu. Goku would recognize the Dodon Ray used by them, techniques that he would associate with the dreaded mercenary Tao. Goku is very determined to not lose to these guys, but can he change his fate? You will have to wait for part 2. Now we're aware that this episode is much more summary-ish, but original Dragon Ball takes place over such a big time frame that we decided to focus only on the important parts. I think you guys have already seen the pattern. Goku doesn't want to just fight strong guys, he wants to win, and prove that he is better than them. How such a change will affect the story when the stakes will be higher than just a tournament victory? Only time will tell. And that is where we're going to be leaving things for right now. So what do you guys think? Will Goku forge a much stronger bond with Tenshinhan and Chaozu? How will the boy change the face of Dragon Ball? leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!